All right. Let's jump into this. I sent everyone about 2 weeks ago. I sent everybody this checklist. It's called I sent everyone an email. It was called a one-stop shop for the PC program. I think it was called literally PC one-stop shop. That PC one-stop shop has all of our call links. It has my YouTube channel link, which if you've missed any previous coachings, you can run back and see those on the YouTube channel. There are also a plethora, yes, I said a plethora of training topics that I've created videos for that may help you to answer questions, particularly if you're newer or haven't approached certain situations before. In that email, there were 2 attachments. One of those attachments was this right here. This is a training checklist. This training checklist is literally meant to help bring you up to speed quickly on things that you should already know in order to both show a home and in order to conduct an open house. The reason that this came about was because we've run into some things where an agent maybe volunteered to do an open house, but we didn't quite have all these things nailed down, and I feel like I didn't set the agent up for success. So I want to do this to set us all up for success, to have an open book test. We know what's expected of us, and ultimately we're going to be helping our clients and future clients out much better than if we were just winging it. Again, I go back to the first minute of the conversation that we had today, in that I'm not satisfied with what Hondros does to prepare our agents to be realtors, because they don't teach this stuff right here. They don't teach you how to show a darn home. They don't teach you how to hold an open house, which is ultimately going to build your business. So follow along real quickly, and I'm going to ask some questions, and these may be really rudimentary for somebody that's been licensed for a while versus somebody who's brand new, but stick with me. Do we all know, can somebody explain what the E-key is when I say purchase the E-key at Columbus Board of Realtors? Can somebody explain what the E-key is?
Basically, it's an app that you download, but you have to talk to someone at the Board of Realtors to be able to get that information. And then they give you like a YouTube video to find out how to do everything. But it allows you to then, if you're going to do a showing, it allows you to then be able to get into the property with that app at a particular time of the day, right?
Yeah, so the E-key is what allows you to get into a home that has one of these on it. This is a Supra lockbox. So like Lauren, you've never probably seen one of these before, but some agents, if you've done showings or held open house or whatever, you've seen these before. This is not the only kind of lockbox we have access to in Central Ohio. And in fact, if you were to do real estate in Cleveland, they have a different type of Supra. If you were to do real estate in other parts of the same state that we live in, there are multiple types of electronic devices. It's crazy and weird. And why don't we just use one uniform thing? Again, I don't know. Real estate's broken. I'll try to fix it. But this is the number one lockbox that we use here in Central Ohio. The other lockboxes that you'll see are manual. So where you'll have a dial and you'll put in the number and it'll automatically pop open. And sometimes there'll be little buttons that you push the combo in. Anyways, at the end of the day, this is the one you use the most. So the E-key, I've got the app up right here. Can you all see my my phone? It's this one right here. It says Supra E-key. It looks like a lockbox. This is what you need to pay your dues at the board. It's like, I don't know, $250 for the year, super cheap, and it allows you access. When you do that, to Erica's point, you'll get a PIN number. And once you've done that, it's super easy to use. I'm pulling it open right now. When you get to the home, you'll obtain the key, boop. You'll type in your code. You'll make sure Bluetooth is on. 1111 is mine. Don't steal it. And then on the lockbox, you'll push this little button up. this little release clasp thing underneath is what stores the key. When it says success, you can pop it up again and voila, out comes the carriage and the key will be inside. When you are showing a home, it's very important, particularly for safety. When you unlock the door, you go into the house, and then what do?
Lock the door.
Lock the door. Yeah, safety first, honestly. And this is not just for like, Chris, you're a big dude. No one's going to mess with you, but people will mess with you. Okay. Everyone gets messed with. Don't be a victim. If we can control it, lock the darn door behind you. Keep the key with you. Don't keep it outside. Cool. Safety first. We care about you. We love you.
Hey, Josh, one of the other things for them not to forget is if when they go to a box, if a box has not been active for a while, it always helps if you push on the bottom because it'll activate the box. So it'll start to register because sometimes the boxes have either the batteries going down or, so you always push the bottom and that activates the Bluetooth.
Cool. Good info.
Also, I think you have to make sure that if it's not working, that you have to update the app. Like you have to update the app within the app.
I'll be honest.
No?
I've been showing homes for 3 years. I've never updated the app.
No kidding. Okay.
Me either. And
There-
also,
There
Never-
are spots in the country though that are hard to get like service, and you might need to move your phone around and stand in the right spot to get it to connect with the lockbox. Chris, what were you gonna say?
and never hand off the key to another agent if there's multiple showings. Always put the lockbox back together.
And the reason for that?
Is your accountability. It tracks by your name who checks in, and if somebody does something and it's under your name, there's no way for them to tell that the other agent's the one who actually did it.
1000% agree. Great call outs, guys. Good stuff. Yeah, at the end of the day, this is all to cover your butt and to not get you in trouble. When you're done with the showing, you exit. To Chris's point, let's say there's another agent out there waiting to get in. They say, hey, can we come in? You say, actually, yes. Let me put the key away though. You lock the door behind you. Therefore, any liability is off of you. And then you put the key back in the carriage. You put the carriage back in the lockbox and you, until you hear a click and then it doesn't fall out, you're good to go. Cool? So E-key, super simple. Don't overcomplicate it. All you need to do is pay for it, then use it. The other piece is the Showing Time app. The reason I'm covering this, guys, again, is so that you all are aware of the bare fundamentals needed to get into a home. The Showing Time app is something we can all download. Your Keller Williams monthly fee incorporates this into it. So it's that sundial looking thing on the bottom. Stopwatch looking thing. Super simple to use. You can also use it on a desktop if you go to showingtime.com, I think it is. Showing Time. When you pull it out, if you want to request a showing, up here in the top left, there's these 3 lines. Click on that. There's a whole bunch of options. Schedule a showing is there. The reason we use this is so we save time, right? So I can schedule showings at 8 a.m., 3 a.m., midnight, whenever. And honestly, normally I schedule my showings for the next day, like at nighttime. And the whole purpose for this tool is so that we're saving steps for us, but also not having to blow up the other realtor asking if we can get into the home. This is easy. Let's use it. When you want to put in an address, you just type it into this little search bar up here and it will automatically populate. Super simple. Let's put one in here. All right, this is what's going to come up. You'll notice that there are a couple of things that have drop downs. So the day, the time, and the duration. let's be smart, guys. Give yourself a little buffer zone, especially if you've got multiple showings. Make sure you pick the right day. Don't get out of line, man. It's embarrassing when you accidentally pick the wrong day and you show up for a showing that day and the owner's still there. They're like, we don't have a showing right now. And then you look like a ding dong. I've done it. So make sure you're doing your due diligence on your admin piece here. For the time, again, make sure that it's within reasonable hours. So from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., I think is when you can schedule showings on this. And then the duration. If they're not allowing overlapping showings, if they're not allowing multiple people at a time, I recommend maxing out the duration. It gives your buyer a leg up. It allows fewer competitors into the home. Am I making sense? Once you've input those things, you'll scroll and request the appointment, that blue button. There are there's really just two different ways that you'll get confirmation. Some homes are classified as go and show. That means as soon as I request it, I'm going to be granted permission automatically. And then others are appointment only. And appointment only simply means that when I request that showing, I have to wait for the seller or the agent or whatever to approve the showing. Most are pretty quick. Go and shows are typical for vacant properties. All right, so if I'm looking at this checklist, we've talked about the Showing Time app, how to use the Showing Time app. The next thing that we challenge you to do is practice. We want you to practice on a lockbox. So I think, Derek, I'm not going to pick on you because this happened to us all at one point, but we were having issues getting into a lockbox, and it's time for that showing. We don't want to be surprised with anything that's out of the blue. So practice before we go. And if you need lock boxes to practice on, go into either office, and there are lock boxes in our offices. Shadow another agent on at least 2 showings. So if you've done 0 showings thus far and you need to experience what a showing is like, we don't want you to do it the first time with your new client without having done it before, simply because you may not know best practices. You may not know how to approach them. I encourage y'all to work together as peers, but also if you need to, reach out to me and I can help set up a shadowing opportunity for you. Feedback is important on showings. It's important because if you're the listing agent, you're going to expect feedback. Janae, I know you've got a listing. Is it helpful to get feedback from the other agents?
Definitely helpful. I actually just called an agent today because their buyer changed the time, so they canceled it. And I called and asked them like, hey, if I know it's set up for a certain time to stop showings, but if your client needs a later showing, then I can open it up. So he was like, good to know. I'll call my client and let them know. So it was good to get feedback for why they canceled.
Cool. And then also, once you've conducted the actual showing, to provide feedback for the other agents so that they can best price it. If a home isn't going into contract immediately these days, there's probably something wrong with it from a buyer's eyes. So that feedback can be really substantial in helping you go back to your seller and say, listen, we're consistently seeing that this, and this is wrong with the house. I recommend taking a pricing reduction or fixing this, and this to make sure that it's not an issue.
Hey, Josh.
Yo.
I know you have one listed on Gilbert. What kind of feedback are you getting? Mine is basically everybody's loved the house. They're saying the price is just right. I may have had 1 or 2 that said it was listed too high, and everybody else doesn't like the street, and I can't change the street.
There's some feedback that we can do positive things with, and there's some things that we just can't. Like, okay, so mine's missing a garage. It doesn't have a garage. I'm not going to go erect a garage, and we're not spending $30K to do that. So I'm just going to take that one and chew on it. I don't know what else to do. But
Right.
some things, like if it was, here's a good one I've heard in the past. Can smell a pet odor in the home. Okay, well, when I get that information, I can do something about that. I can put in some air fresheners. I can open up windows in between showings. I can try and get that out, right? Bake some cookies, but honestly, the feedback on I'm supposed to close on Gilbert tomorrow, so fingers crossed. I need that thing done.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's some feedback's worthless, so try to give positive feedback to people like that they can do something with. Knows where to find and print the consumer guide. Why would printing the consumer guide be important on a showing? Bueller? When are we supposed to have the consumer guide filled out?
Is it prior to an offer?
The
First
first
substantial contact.
substantive contact with a potential client. So therefore, if your first contact with a client is at the physical location, the showing, we should get that paper signed. So knowing where to find that is pretty critical. So for you at Excel, going to Dotloop and finding that, and for you at Capital Partners, going to DocuSign will get you there. If you need to know more about getting the consumer guide, please let me know. I'd recommend having a folder of these in your car, in your trunk or whatever, so that you always have one ready. Knows to always give feedback the same day, yes. And knows how to use the MLS and has taken training online or in person. This is a rhetorical question right now. Have you taken the Flex MLS training? Even if you've been licensed for a while, if the answer to that is no, go do it. Reason being, that's where all of your information comes from. If you don't know how to use the MLS, how are you going to show a home really? You just going to go in there and wing it? Probably not. Probably not the best idea. All right. Any questions on prior to showing a home? Anything you'd add?
I had a question.
Yes.
So you said the consumer guide you need it after the first substantive contact. So if it's a person that is not represented by an agent, a potential buyer, and you're doing an open house, or I'm sorry, doing a show. Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. It's for a showing. I'm losing my mind. I'm going to blame mommy brain. Ignore it.
Okay.
Yeah, I got one. Yeah, I'm good.
Well, let's move over to open houses. So open houses, guys, it's, as I said earlier, it's the easiest way to gain new business. As new realtors, we should be tackling the easiest ways to find new clients. We need more clients, and so we need more open houses. I flash back to when we were discussing, like in January and February, it was before most of your guys' time, but we were discussing our yearly plans for our goals for the year. A lot of those goals revolved around holding X number of open houses per month. I feel strongly that a good number for a new agent would be at least 2 to 3 open houses per month. That could take one weekend. It could take 3 weekends if you wanted to, but at the end of the day, you're not putting yourself out. You're still available for your family and friends on the weekends, minus these 2 hours. In order to conduct an open house, you really need to know how to show a home, because that's what you're basically doing 20 times over the course of an open house, and a good open house. Let me see what the chat says here. Chris says, open houses are my favorite way of lead gen. And Chris has closed several units and got a buyer from an open house, right? He's apparently not going to talk out loud. Must complete 3 CMAs for different properties. Does that, can someone clue us into what a CMA stands for? CMA? We just did it like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. What does CMA stand for? You're realtors now. What's it stand
Comparative
for?
market analysis.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamal. Competitive market analysis. So what's a CMA? It is analyzing competitive homes around your neighborhood. So if I'm showing up at an open house and I'm a great realtor, should I not also know what other homes around me are for sale or have just recently closed? Yes, 100%. If you don't know how to do a CMA, there's a YouTube channel that I'd highly recommend. It's called Trailblazing Real Estate, and there's video on CMAs. We discussed 3 different ways to do CMAs. There's a quick one, there's a medium speed one, and then there's a slow one that's the most intense. I want to encourage you all, if you've not already, if you own a house or live near a house, do a CMA on your house. Give yourself an idea of how much your home is worth. Must create a simple listing presentation. In order to capitalize, say you 20 people come through your house, your open house. Not everybody's going to be a buyer. Some people may be nosy neighbors. Nicole Heiserman on the Kemp group, this happened to her where a nosy neighbor came in and was essentially interviewing her, asking her a bunch of questions about the house, about her marketing strategy, and lo and behold, they were actually interviewing her and she got their listing, same neighborhood. She also got them as a buyer because they had to buy and sell. So, do you think she was best served to have a simple listing presentation prepared in case that person was to come through and on the spot kind of ask, well, hey, okay, let's talk about listing my home. Well, if she pulled that bad boy out, she's going to look like she is prepared. Where can we find a simple listing presentation?
Shouldn't it be one of MLS that you can print out?
You know, there may be one on the MLS, but Chris Weatherly says Command. In Command, if you go to Designs, there are listing presentations that you can just simply edit. They're kind of intense. I would actually recommend deleting some of the pages and keeping it really simple. I'm talking like 4 or 5 pages. Talk a little bit about who you are, who you work with, because although you guys don't have a great portfolio of huge amount of sales, your brokerage does, and you technically work on that team, right? So you can actually use that data. Talk a little bit about marketing strategy, maybe even a neighborhood snapshot. So if you go to Command and you go to Designs, you can find simple listing presentations. You should also have a simple buyer's presentation because you're going to get a lot more buyer traction at the open house, because what a person coming through an open house is doing is they're raising their hand saying, I might be interested in buying this home. I am a buyer. And a good number of people that are in that situation do not have representation. That's why they are not there with a realtor. Some people hate their realtor and are looking for a new one. You're always being interviewed. So if you have a buyer's presentation, why not put that on the table right next to your business cards and the sign-in sheet or the sign-in program that you use. Preparation is key though. And these things are all like foundation principles. They're going to allow you to go into future listing presentations or future buyer presentations equipped and ready to go. So when I say prior to holding an open house on your own, you should do these things. This isn't just good for open houses. This is good for the rest of your life as a realtor. And please don't think it all needs to be perfect. When I say simple listing presentation, get the bare bones and you'll be fine. Must review and feel comfortable with the open house scripts below. There are several scripts that are important for a multitude of different reasons. So the whole point of this training, this PC class right here today is to get us thinking about how we can build business out of open houses. Well, part of building business out of open house is getting people to the open house. So the first script here is prospecting before the open house. If you have enough time, let's say I send a note out to everybody and this is on Tuesday and somebody signs up for an open house. You got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday before the open house maybe happens on Saturday. You got 4 days to try to drum up interest in this open house. So there's really two different ways of going about this. Number one is door knocking. And number two is cold calling. What tool do we have to help us with cold calling? Erica, we just learned it like 2 weeks ago.
Mojo Power Dialer.
Mojo Power Dialer can automatically look up geographic areas and pull phone numbers and allow you to dial all those phone numbers in a really quick manner. Or same principle, if you're going to go door knock that area, it requires you to physically be there, right? So the script looks something to the effect of, hi, I'm Erica with Keller Williams, and I just listed Joe and Amy's house around the corner. The sellers wanted me to invite you to their grand opening on Saturday from 12 to 2. And then they say yada, yada, yada. And then you go into the script. Ultimately, what you're trying to do is invite people to this open house. And through this specific script, you're really personifying that house. And you're showing this person, their neighbor, that you know the people, that you're personable. And again, you're interviewing for the job to sell their home in the future. So this is one script, and this is one way of advertising or marketing. What other ways do we have to advertise or market in order to drive traffic to an open house?
Social media.
Bingo. In what form? Let's brainstorm different ways to get additional people to the open house.
Probably make an event and then promote that event.
Heck yeah. Yeah, like a Facebook event. That's a great way of doing it. And then you can allow RSVPs so you can track people and actually get contact information. That's a great idea, Jamal.
Invite other realtors from other offices, and or just even internally too, to the Keller Williams offices.
That's a great way to be a fiduciary for your client to try and drive as much traffic as possible. It's not probably going to get you any business, but it could get your seller some. But that's a great call out. So maybe the Facebook closed group for each market center. Also looking at Facebook closed groups such as Realtor to Realtor in search of, or Realtor to Realtor coming soon. If you're not members of those Facebook groups, I'd encourage you to become members of those Facebook groups. Sometimes you can find out about properties before they hit the market. What other things could we do on social media?
What were those called again? I'm sorry, Josh. You said realtor to realtor. I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, if you search groups on Facebook, it's called Realtor to Realtor ISO in search of. And then another one is, I think it's called Coming Soon Columbus, maybe. I'll look it up. What other methods of advertising do we have through social media? Erica, it's called Coming Soon Listing Inventory. Coming Soon Listing Inventory.
Thank you.
Other methods could look like doing videos, doing Facebook Live, Instagram Lives, doing Reels, doing TikToks. Never count out any form of social media. Getting on LinkedIn, doing a Facebook Marketplace, doing a command Facebook ad where you throw a couple bones behind it. You throw $10 at it and see if you can't get additional eyes on it. There's a number of different things that we can do, guys. And if we're really going aggressively after new business, these are things that we will do. They're not hard and they don't take a long time. All right, so we're talking about scripts, we're talking about marketing. When setting up for the open house, you need to know how to set up for an open house. There's some legalese behind these things, but like asking for permission when planting signs in people's yards. I love this, going to the 3 houses across the street and on either side of the house to let them know that there's going to be an open house happening. They're going to see increased traffic and apologize for increasing the value of their home. I want to repeat that piece. Apologize to their neighbors for increasing the value of their home by creating a mild inconvenience for them on the day of the open house. When they see that, they're going to be much more interested in what you have to say and in you as a realtor when you say, I'm impacting the value of your house this weekend. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Please feel free to come by. Here's my card in case you ever need anything in the future. I'll follow up with you when this is done and tell you just how many offers we got in case you're interested. There's a couple other scripts here as people come in through the home, from greeting them to what to say exactly. It's all important. All right, other things that we want to make sure that
Where
we're
can you
doing.
find that, Josh?
This
I'm
is in
sorry.
an email that I sent probably 2 weeks ago called PC One Stop Shop. This is an attachment on that email and you should have it. If you do not, holler at me, shoot me a text. Must review the how to write an offer video. So there's a video on my YouTube channel, how to write an offer. If we don't know how to write an offer, what are we going to do when a potential buyer comes in and says, I'd like to place an offer on this house? It happens pretty frequently, actually. In the hottest areas, this will happen to you. Kathy, did it not happen to you recently?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, and it was a surprise because you'd only had your license for like what, a couple weeks probably, and so you were like, oh crap, now how do I write an offer? And so it's important to at least have the fundamentals so that you can at least kind of speak to what it looks like to write an offer.
One question though, real quick, this might not pertain, but it kind of does on this past thing. When you're talking about consumer guide and all of that, So when do we put this into play, or how do we do this for the future? Like on this place that I just sold, it was a flat fee and I didn't realize it until after the fact, and we were already in, the client wanted to write the offer. How do we just have to leave that alone, or so that we don't lose out on a percentage? Do we have the buyer sign something, or can you kind of explain that a little bit? Because when
I'm gonna show them what you're talking about.
yeah,
So for those of you who don't know, every listing will tell you how you're gonna get paid if you go into contract. It's really important to know how you're gonna get paid, right? And how much. Every single listing, if you look at the front page here and you scroll all the way down, it's gonna show you how you get paid right down here.
Mhm.
If you work with me, I'm going to be, I'm always going to give the buyer 3% because I know how hard the buyer's agents work these days. If I have to take a cut off, I'm going to take it off of my end as a seller. That's not the way everyone rolls, but for me, it's 3%. So you know right away, I'm getting 3%. Some people will write down, in Kathy's point, a flat fee. Maybe it's $2,500. Well, if you want to negotiate that, you can write that into the contract. Section 1.1, additional terms. Seller agrees to pay buying brokerage 3% of total purchase price.
Do you okay that with your buyer first, that they're on board?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And what I normally do is, it's psychological, I guess, but I play the victim a little bit, say, hey guys, just a heads up, they're only wanting to pay me like a fraction of what I normally make on a home sale. So if you're okay with it, I'd like to at least request them to pay me a full commission. Remember, as realtors, we're not, and brokers, we're not allowed to set commissions across. So there's no set commission, but 3% is kind of typical. And I've never had anyone, most people say, oh my gosh, well, they're trying to rip you off. You've done a ton of work for us. I want you to get paid. So then you can write it in there. But yeah, absolutely. You approve that with your buyer.
Okay.
And if you're a listing agent, don't be cheap. You know how hard it is on the buying side. It's much harder than it is to sell the house normally.
Is that usually the seller that sets that though? Are they saying they only want to pay, or is that the?
It's a mix. The seller normally is, well, let's say you're representing somebody on a buy and a sell. I normally cut that person a deal and only charge them 2% when they sell, because I'm getting paid 3% of their buy. So sometimes that comes from the agent. Sometimes it comes from a cheap seller. They don't want to pay full commission. Maybe they can't afford to. There's all kinds of different, methodologies. But to your point, it's best to get clarification up front. I want to run through this, guys, because I do want to cover another script or two here. Must attend a contracts class with the broker. That's important. Our brokers hold contracts classes once a month. Must have written 3 mock purchase contracts. Just get into DocuSign or Dotloop and do a practice purchase contract, guys. If you're going to be a professional, shouldn't you practice? It's like being a basketball player. You think they just go out there and shoot free throws in the game? No, they practice. Unless you're like Shaquille O'Neal, who always sucked at free throws. He's practiced still, though, I think. Review the open house PC video. So I've done a mock open house before, and it is on our coaching YouTube channel. Download an open house check-in app for your computer or laptop. If you're not going to have a computer or laptop at the house, then have a sign-in sheet. This is where you're going to gain clients. You're going to gain clients because you're going to ask the person to please sign in, because it's a pandemic and we want to be able to track everyone who's here in case something were to happen. My sellers have requested you sign in. And you do that right when they come in. Why do we do it? Because it's the most important reason that we're holding the open house, to get additional contact information, to get new sellers or new buyers. When they sign in, they should give us 3 pieces of information: name, email, phone number. Name, email, phone number. You can program the app that you download. I download one, it's called Open House Pro. It's free, but you can program it to do whatever you want, ask whatever questions you want. And after they've filled it out, the nice thing is that it disappears off the screen and you get an email once the open house is done. If you're using paper, great. Use whatever works for you. Get their contact information and make it sound like it's mandatory to sign in to see the home. I had somebody push back and say, a lot of people don't like to sign in. Okay, well then they can't see the home. Like, this is your open house. You're writing the rules. And obviously you're getting your seller's permission to do that. But honestly, shouldn't we play this smart, especially in a pandemic? Like, what happens if somebody who comes through says, hey, I just want to let you know, it's been a couple of days and I found out that I had coronavirus. Shouldn't you let other people know? Like, due diligence, right? We want to protect people, but we also want their business in the future. And if we get their contact information, we can plug them in a command, put them on a drip campaign, and who knows, maybe they're our future next seller.
You know, Josh, there's I think there's within Command you can create your own landing page for people to share information. And if you go online, you can also find free sites that will create a QR code, and then you can link that site to the QR code, leave that printout there, and people can just use their phones, scan the QR code, and it takes them straight to a Command landing page for them to enter their information, and that immediately goes into Command for you.
Wow, that sounds awesome. We might need you to show us next time.
Yeah, I like that information.
Have you practiced with that, Derek?
Well, I've created it. I'd have to go through it again just to make sure I know where it's at Command, but I can try to do that and put something together.
That'd be awesome, man. That'd be really good. I've not played with that. Finishing up, guys, we got 4 minutes here. Create custom tag in Command for open house, meaning you're going to put a custom tag on anybody that you get from an open house so that you can remember what open house that was from. You can start tracking things. Must be familiar with input of contacts in a command. You have to know how to use a CRM in order to use the CRM. Understand the setup process for an open house, meaning directional signs. They're important. Balloons. It's cheesy, but it works and it's important. Riders that say open house 1 to 3 Saturday. Snacks, etc. Somebody was saying before that they went with using a realtor because they provided mimosas at the open house, and they liked that. Like, that's fun. Have fun with it. I've had beers before. I've had wine before. So the world's your oyster. Make it fun. And then lastly, make sure, guys, that we shadow another agent at least one open house if possible. If you've not held an open house yet, ask one of our awesome team here to shadow them. Our objective is to get business. The only way to get business is to get out there and do the work. So sign up for open houses, shadow another person, learn how to do it from the best, and then use these scripts, okay? This is all an open book test. It's all in that email called PC One Stop Shop. I'm going to end with a couple scripts that my broker here at Capital Partners just gave me, things that will help protect you. This is the one that applies to you guys. So for an independent agent, so for a solo agent holding an open house for their own listing, and I'll send this out to you guys. Hi, I'm Jamal with Keller Williams Capital Partners. Thanks for visiting my listing. Ohio agency law requires that I identify myself and disclose who I'm working for. This is my listing, which means I'm working for the sellers. What that means to you is that you should not share anything you would not want me to share with the sellers. there's different ways to say that. She's covering her butt, basically saying, "Hi, I'm Jamal with Keller Williams Capital Partners, and I'm the listing agent representing the sellers." That's probably the easiest way to say that. At the open house, you can also say, "I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the property." As you let them get around, one of the best things to do is to say, "Have you selected a realtor to work for you?" And if they say yes, ask for their name so they can follow up with the agent. And if they say no, ask if they have further interest in this property. And if they do not, ask if you might apply for their job as their agent and help them find what they do want. If they have further interest in the property, and maybe they want to make an offer. At that point, you'd probably want to have that consumer guide out. You don't need a consumer guide for every John Smith that runs through your open house. You do not need one for every person. Just for the people who have substantive contact, want to write an offer, want additional showings, want additional information, want to use you as their realtor. If you are holding, I'm almost done, guys. If you're holding an open house for somebody else, it's somebody else's listing. "Hi, I'm Erica with Keller Williams Capital Partners. I'm here today facilitating an open house for the listing agent. I do not represent these sellers. Have you selected an agent to work with you? If not, I'm happy to do so." Moral of the story, in order to protect your own butts, identify yourself, identify your brokerage, and identify who you're representing up front. Last but not least, guys, whenever I present open house opportunities to you guys, I try to keep it in our own families. We have two families here. Ultimately, we're one big happy family, but we have the Keller Williams Capital Partners and we have the Keller Williams Excel. It's much easier and provides a lot less stress if we keep showings and open houses within each silo, because it allows us to say less. So that's just a little bit of background on how I offer up open houses. So if anyone has an open house opportunity, we try to keep it within the family by the brokerage. Cool. Hopefully this was good information, guys. Again, open book tests on how to convert people at open houses, PC, one-stop shop, and this is one of the attachments. It's called the training checklist. If you've not conducted these things, start conducting these things. This will play a factor in reimbursement as you close deals. Okay. Thanks for attending, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day and enjoy this weather while we got it. It's nice.
Thank you.
Talk to y'all later.
Thank you. All right.